So module 9, what we talk about, we're going to talk about group formation through a cycle of group formation. And we're going to talk about habits of highly effective peer education teams.
Straight out of Steve.
So we're going to throw a little Beyonce in there. Sure, okay.
Just kidding.
Put our love on top.
Yeah.
Boom. And I think what also would be helpful is talking about mission, vision, and values. It's something I'm going to ad-lib a little bit, but just bear with me as we start talking about that. Might be helpful in sort of that 7 habits piece, but we will work on maybe some group mission, vision, values. These are some skills that you can then apply personally or maybe in some other groups. So there won't be pages in your workbook on mission, vision, values specifically. But that's something that I think might be important, especially as your group is really starting to find its way as we start talking about these topics going forward. So when it comes to group formation and it comes to being effective teams, we have a cycle. And what happens with cycles? Cycles are circles, and circles are true, and lines are false and negative. But we all know that reasons why you try to become a peer educator is maybe you have a desire to help. You want to be a part of change on your campus, right? That's that activist role of peer educators. Maybe you have personal experience dealing with some of these topic areas, and that has given you a passion to help. Maybe you're pursuing a health career in some form. You want to volunteer, you want to enhance your resume, it's totally fine. I was very intentional in my undergraduate career that everything that I did on campus needed to tie to my future career. And I wanted stuff to tout on a resume, and it worked. And maybe you want to build some personal skills. Whatever reason it is that you became a peer educator, you've now joined a group of others who are trying to be peer educators to really help your campus community. And so with that, we have a cycle of group formation. The cycle is called Tuckman's cycle, if anyone wants to know that theorist. Has anyone heard of this? I saw a few smiles. So we'll go a little bit deeper, but there are 5 stages of this cycle: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. If you want to say adjourning, you can, but to make it rhyme. Adjourning is how I would pronounce it. So there are 5 stages. First of these stages is the forming stage. This is kind of like that honeymoon stage, if folks have heard of that term before, where people come together and, oh my gosh, we're going to be best friends forever, and this is great. Like, think of like roommates on the first week of school. Like, they're best friends and they love each other and there are no issues, and we actively avoid conflict and controversy, even if the fact that your roommate doesn't vacuum and just like has crap all over his half of the room, like, not that I'm speaking from experience whatsoever, you don't want to have any sort of conflict. So you are in this forming stage. And when you're first in this part of the process, you're coming up with a group identity. We did that yesterday. I broke you up into small little family groups and made you come up with a team name, a team motto, a team mascot, a team goal. Came up with sort of our peer ed superheroes, which housekeeping and custodial might have recycled.
Oh no!
Dr. Way and I talked about it on our way out the door, and we're like, oh no, they'll leave them up there, because we actually had a conversation with housekeeping on Sunday and said that we were here the whole week.
Why would they take that and not that?
Yeah, but they left the ground rules, so we're good. But we came up with sort of this group name, and we came up with this group identity. That's all part of this forming stage. Eventually, however, conflict is going to arise. And that's the storming stage. Bless you.
Thank you.
Conflict can be good. Because unfortunately, bless you, people have that free will stuff and therefore have their own ideas, work styles, and personalities. It's normal and it's important to have conflict. Because if you don't have conflict, it's just kind of fake and no change or no progress can really be made. So that's the storming stage. But eventually you learn how to manage that conflict and you go into the norming stage, where you really start to have a strong group identity. What is it that you're known for? You're starting to function as a high-performing team. You start to agree on rules of behavior, values, how you're going to work together. And you're able to translate your ideas into action. I mean, I've joked a few times with, my friends Katie and Ryan, like Katie and I are very type A and Ryan's type Omega. This is kind of how our relationship was founded. Like, we started off in the honeymoon phase, the norming phase, or the forming phase. We love each other, yes.
Where did you guys meet at?
We met at grad school. So Katie was hall director, or actually both Katie and Ryan were resident directors with me.
Like, you said, like, freshman year?
Well, grad school's their first year of grad school. Grad school was 2 years.
Okay. Well, yeah.
So we agreed on some of these different values, and eventually we started having conflict because we were in class together, and Ryan wouldn't do any of his work, nor would he respond to emails or text messages, and group papers were hard. But then we learned, like, okay, Ryan, like, we need to give you a deadline 3 days before the actual deadline because we know you're going to be 3 days late. Part of this norming phase. And we eventually were able to translate our ideas into action. And once you go through norming, then you perform. You're completing your assigned tasks. Your outcomes are clearly having an impact on the community. You welcome disagreement, and you resolve conflicts positively. And you have high energy and high productivity. This is kind of like where we are in my own office. So I said there are 4 of us that work in Denver. Lori is my coworker on the same level as me, sort of in our institutional hierarchy. And we have very different perspectives. I have a master's in higher education and student affairs. She has a master's in nonprofit management. A few months ago, we were looking to hire a work-study intern for our office because we were housed at a community college on campus. And so we went to a job fair and we had some applicants. And we had 2 finalists. We had 2 folks that we wanted. One was mine, one was hers. Mine was an 18-year-old male who had never had a job before in his life, a little rough around the edges, said some things in the interview where we were just like, okay, let's rephrase that a little bit. But I'm like, oh my gosh, there's potential with him. I love it. The student development person in me said, yeah, we should hire him because then, like, at the end of the school year, he's going to be so great and we can really help him in his development, and it's going to be such a rewarding experience for him. Lori, on the other hand, is like, all of us in this office travel. I want this guy over here who's in his 30s, is actually just going back to school to get an associate's because he's switching careers. He knows what he's doing. He requires no hand-holding, and it's just like, I don't want to have to see him. I just want to give him tasks and have it be done. Both are valid reasons. Mine just comes from a very developmental student affairs point, and hers comes from a high productivity standpoint. So we argue, and we're yelling back and forth at one another, and our VP is on the line, and at one point, like, she emailed our supervisors, like, is everything okay with them? Do we need to, like, have a mediation between the 2 of them? But we just welcome this disagreement, and we argue all the time, and, we Snapchat every day, and, like, I texted her during dinner last night, and she texted me in the morning. Like, it doesn't affect our personal relationship, even if we have this disagreement. It's actually part of just how we work, because conflict can be good. It doesn't have to be all negative. You just have to resolve it positively. And then the funny story is we ended up hiring neither of those students because they actually didn't have a work study award.
Hate it when that happens.
Right?
I hate it.
So we were able to hire neither of them. We ended up going with Lori's person because, like, yes, or whenever we decided which one we wanted to hire, because I'm not in the office, like, I'm in the office 3 days a month, essentially, so, but we ended up getting 0. It's here. So that's how the story ended. But really, I just wanted to show that that's part of that performing stage, where we are a functioning team, and we know how to handle conflict and how to handle disagreement. And eventually, though, you might be performing, but then you adjourn. And that's when the group transitions. New leadership, people join or leave the group. Maybe you come up with a new mission. These things sort of happen. And when you think about the cycle of group formation, why it's a cycle is that every time someone either leaves or joins your group, you have to go through the cycle again. It might not take as long as when you first start out and start working, but everyone brings their own different perspectives, ideas, job responsibilities that you actually have to go through it again. Plus you. So for example, our senior director just retired, so all of her job responsibilities got shifted amongst the four of us. She left, and so we've been having a little bit of conflict because we're still in this sort of like storming phase of Anne is gone, who's doing what? But we've quickly started to go through those phases because it's not like a group like this where everyone just comes in at once and then you have to start this kind of from scratch. So that's just sort of a little bit about that adjourning phase as it leads to group formation. Now let's get into formation. All right, we're going to have a performance up here. No? Okay. Here are some tips that folks can use in each of these stages, specifically for your group going forward. So in your forming stage, icebreakers. Icebreakers are a good way to start your group development process. That's why we played icebreakers for an hour and a half yesterday. I joked about it, yeah.
You know what I just realized?
What?
Nobody actually plays the game Icebreaker. Where you put the little guy.
Break the ice, yeah.
My daughter actually said, Mom, why don't you bring that?
Yeah, right? Like,
That's actually a good idea.
I think people forget about that.
Yes, I forgot about it.
That's such a fun game. Okay, carry on.
All right,
So
going back to group formation. Icebreakers can be a good way to do it. That's what we did yesterday. I know it's important for us to come together as a group because when we start off and we don't do icebreakers, then it's dead silent in the room. Now, it kind of was early yesterday morning, but now I can't get y'all to shut up. No, just kidding. Yeah.
I just have a question for you, as a professional, I guess. Because I feel so often that there's a sigh that comes after the word icebreakers, like when you say in a room.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a strategy, or do you do something to get people hyped to do icebreakers, or are you just I'm gonna ignore everyone's sighs because you're gonna do it and you're gonna love it, and I don't care because this is important.
So I sometimes try to stick away from the term icebreaker, and I think I kind of did that yesterday, where I was like, we're going to do an activity, an interactive activity, or a team-building activity. It's not until now where I said, I said yesterday, we played games for an hour and a half. A little different than we just did icebreakers. So yes, I know that there sometimes are those icebreakers. But there is intention behind it, and that's sort of the other pieces. Don't do an icebreaker just to do an icebreaker. What is the reason why you're doing it? Everything should have a reason. It should be, quote, mission-driven or outcome-based. So for example, this morning, I know that you wanted to play with the icebreaker ball. Instead of just going and sitting in a circle and throwing the ball at one another and having folks answer questions, I tied it in with okay, so when you catch the ball, not only do you have to answer this question, but you have to answer the question, what did you learn yesterday? So it's a little more intentional in that. So I would say, what is the reason for doing an icebreaker? And if the reason for doing an icebreaker is just to do an icebreaker, think a little bit deeper with that. That's why, so you yesterday, you had said something about, at least it wasn't like the human knot, where the icebreakers that we did weren't, someone said that, weren't the standard icebreaker. There you go. So yeah, so the icebreakers weren't your typical icebreaker. So think of things other than the where the wind blows, or the human knot, in terms of the icebreakers that you can do. Answer your question?
Yeah.
Awesome. Clarify your expectations and outcomes. Kind of did that yesterday in addition to involvement in the group. All of this kind of goes with that ground rules activity that we did. Inviting someone to really provide this formal charge to the group. We actually had that as well with Dr. C yesterday. Invited him in, he said a few words and kind of started it off. There's a ways to sort of start with this forming stage. In addition, storming, because conflict's going to happen. things to remember when conflict happens, maybe have a retreat. You know, especially around that midterms time or right after midterms, when stress is high, have some sort of a retreat. And when you're at this retreat, you know, even if it's just kind of renting out this space and having a conversation or something like that, address feelings and concerns. Make it a safer space to talk about what is it that's going on. Like, we just need to be honest right now. Because we all are doing this because we love the work that we're doing. But like, let's literally clear the air. Maybe you need to clarify expectations of one another. Because most times conflict happens because of a breakdown in communication. That's really what conflict stems from, at least in my opinion. Is we make an assumption that someone knows something or is going to act in a certain way, but we've never actually set the expectation for them. So there are times when I can't get mad at Ryan, even if I want to, because I never told him that X is what makes me feel this way. If I don't set that expectation, I don't have any grounds to hold him accountable to it. If you do set the expectation, then you can hold someone accountable. Training on decision making or conflict resolution, that is a great thing. We have a great activity that I like to do. It's called conflict animals. I don't know, has anyone heard of conflict animal activity? So it talks about different styles of conflict that people have. It's something that I actually did with my REs quite a bit whenever I noticed some conflict amongst the group. Basically, it's kind of like one of those online tests that you take where it tells you you're going to be a doctor when you grow up. Like one of those types of things, like a personality exam. But it bases it on different types of animals in terms of how conflict happens. Yeah.
So like the lion, the turtle, and the owl?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that for babies.
Okay, so there are different versions because there's also the shark. The shark is like the very like, just come at you, bro. Like I'm just gonna, I'm gonna cause conflict. Like I want to disrupt the system, which is good. In some instances, you just have to have a balance because then there's the teddy bear, or it's a bear, but I like to call it the teddy bear, because it's like lovey-dovey, doesn't want to cause too much conflict. The turtle who says something and then retreats back into the shell. The owl who is the wise one who only says something when it's needed. So that might be a good activity for you all to do, or to think about going forward. So conflict styles, conflict animals.
I can say that they've all done Strengths Quest. Are you familiar with that?
Excellent.
And this group is full of just about every of the 34 categories. I think we're missing like 4 or 5.
Cool.
So
I
it's a
love
well-rounded group.
Strengths Quest is my favorite. Futuristic Maximizer, Strategic Intellection, and Empathy are my top 5,
Wow.
in case anyone cares. But those personality exams, what is important about them is that shows that everyone has those different perspectives. And you need to have a vast array of personalities, of styles, of conflict animals, of MBTI types, whatever. True Colors is another one. Love languages, we'll get to that in a second. Having all this difference is what makes us a cohesive group. And then team building exercises. So more than just icebreakers, but really intentional team building exercises can go on in this retreat, or however you want to manage your conflict. Once you get to, we've done some discussion there, how you make decisions. There we go. There we go, norming. Maybe you need to have some additional training when you start getting in the stage. Maybe this is more professional development. Maybe there are topic areas that you want to learn more about. Once you're in this norming phase, then you're able to go through this. So consider, what is professional development for me? How do I want to grow more than just where I'm at now? Make sure you're monitoring group concerns. Maybe there's an anonymous tip box or however you want to set that up. Hopefully support open discussion. Hopefully encourage folks to embrace changes, because change happens, especially on a college campus. Sometimes you'll get new directives and not get any support for those directives. That happens on campuses. A lot of that comes, we call them unfunded mandates from the federal government. The federal government says you got to do this, but we're not giving you any money to do it. Find the budget. Yep, that happens. I don't know if anyone has had that experience before. Plan celebrations and celebrate accomplishments. I love that yesterday, one of the first things I witnessed was sort of that MVP thing. It's like that celebrating accomplishments throughout the year is what's important. I have worked for organizations where we never said thank you until the end of the year. Had an end of the year banquet. Like, people could say thank you like throughout the year. That's important to show people that you're actually recognizing the hard work that they're doing. So plan some celebrations and celebrate accomplishments. If it's after maybe your first program, do a debrief, talk about how it went, but then also have some time to celebrate. You just really want a pizza party, is what I'm gauging, because after every slide I hear pizza party, so. But those are some things for norming. Performing, hopefully you have some group learning opportunities. Maybe it's a group service project. That's always a great opportunity that I find with peer ed groups. Is there a community service project that you can engage in? Encourage shared responsibilities. Maybe, sharing your responsibilities that you have with others in your group. That way they're able to build those skill sets as well, especially if you might be leaving and they're staying. That helps make the transition easier. Talk about time efficiency. Are you using your time well? So this is like a really deep reflection of what you're doing and if it's working. Recognizing individual and collective efforts. Again, that goes back to just saying thank you. Apply for awards and recognition. This is time for me to make a hashtag shameless plug. You are going to be a peer education group. You're part of a larger peer education network in the U.S. Through NASPA and through Bacchus. We have both a regional and an annual conference every year that we also provide scholarship opportunities for folks if that's something they're interested in. We also have awards that folks can apply for awards, receive awards, bring them back to your campus. It sort of legitimizes the group, so that is an opportunity for you. We also have an elected student leadership position for campuses and for students where they are sort of the voice of peer education from their region. It's regionally based, so we have like 10 elected students who sit on a national board with us, and we bring you together 3 times and it's all covered. So if that's an opportunity that folks are interested in, there is that leadership opportunity. Because once you start getting awards and recognition, then you get sort of those wheels turning and people know who you are and you're bringing prestige to your institution and to your group and people want to join. So shameless plug over. Happy to talk to you more about that at a break. And then some tips for adjourning. Hopefully you should be planning for transition throughout the year. You know that transition is going to happen. So don't just wait until May 7th when people graduate, maybe on like May 8th. Start having these conversations. I make binders of sort of every job that I do. It's kind of like a good portfolio for me that I can take to a future job, but it also is a good thing to leave for those that come after you. Hopefully you're having some sort of a transition meeting to talk with your successors. Hold an end of the year celebration or pizza party to celebrate all the work that you've done over the year. And then hopefully decide some communication over the summer. Because especially if you're going through this training now, and I know all of you have your eyes set on like 2:30 this afternoon when you can start your summer vacation. Like that's great, but like actually responding to emails over the summer. It's horrible whenever I was in a leadership position in a student organization and couldn't get the rest of the exec team to actually respond to an email the entire summer. Because then you get back in August and you're like 3 months behind. So make sure you're actually communicating over this. Cycle, circle, yay! Forming, I'm gonna say formation. Forming, storming, norming, performing. People leave in the adjourning stage and then you start the cycle over. All right, 7 habits. That makes a highly effective peer education strategy. Yeah, strong, diverse membership. A group shouldn't be built around one person. That's not a group. That's a dictatorship. That's not a group. That's just called having groupies.
And for care.
you say fake hair? There's gonna be some Beyonce drama here. I don't know what's gonna happen.
They're just making fun of me.
Okay.
It's normal.
Good. All right. Well, at least you've gotten over that storming phase, and now it's just part of performing. So, but yeah, your group should not be built around one person or type of talent, which is great whenever you're sort of doing these different personality exams. Hopefully, you're getting diverse ideas and skill sets. You know, we talked yesterday. Diversity means so much. I don't want you to think like, oh, I need to fill a quota of X, Y, Z identities, but make sure that your identities are represented and recognizing what identities aren't around the room and what you can do to sort of recruit those folks. In addition, we will get there in a second with some activity. Well-trained peers! Congratulations, you got the first bullet point done.
Check.
Not yet.
Oh, okay, fine. Wow, all right, you just really know how to bring us back to reality. All right, you're almost done with this one. Soon you will be done with this one. Hopefully you have a monthly training meeting, monthly meetings in general, annual retreats, specific workshops. Are you utilizing other experienced peers or other staff members or other folks on campus? What was that? No, I didn't actually.
Smart training.
Smart training, there we go. And when we do smart training, just a few slides. Okay. So when you are training, you should focus on some key areas and have specific learning outcomes. What makes a good learning outcome? Yes?
They know something, they achieved learning something.
You can actually prove that they've achieved learning something, yeah. Something you should look up on sort of your own time would be Bloom's taxonomy. That is all about sort of writing learning outcomes and basing it upon learning. Anytime I write learning outcomes, I think to myself, how would I measure if this has actually been successful? If I were to put this on a survey, what would I write? We're going to SMART goals. Whoop, whoop. So this could talk a little bit about goals, and I do want to focus a little more on sort of that mission, vision, values once we get to habit 5. So I'm assuming you know SMART goals or SMART training because
I read it.
you read it. Got it. When you set goals, you should think of setting SMART goals. SMART is an acronym with 5 letters because the number 5 just keeps showing up. Specific. Goals need to be specific. They need to specify who or what it is that you're actually working with. Students, participants, faculty, staff, administrators. M, they should be measurable. How are you going to measure success? Students will be able to recall 5 roles that peer educators play. That's measurable. Put that on a survey. What are the 5 roles of peer educators? That could be a qualitative question. Or to what extent do you feel you understand the 5 roles of peer educators? Likert skill could be quantitative. Achievable or attainable, they should be realistic. Shouldn't be something like students going through CPE will be able to recall all 300 pages of the CPE manual. Not necessarily attainable or realistic. For some, maybe. Mr. Robot, I don't know if anyone watches that on USA, like the photographic memory. Okay, maybe. Not everyone. Should be relevant. It should fit your mission and your goals. Shouldn't say something like whatever name you come up with. Participants in whatever name you come up with will be experts in fashion design as it relates to peer education. Not necessarily the most relevant or fits your mission or your goals, or know how to do a cake stand with a cake over peer. Probably not fitting with your goals.
Think about the classes you've had where you feel like the questions asked didn't match what was taught in the class.
Yeah.
And how frustrating that is.
Uh-huh. No one knows that experience, I'm sure, right?
Of course, every single test.
Every single test she's taken, all right. And they should be time-bound. They should set a time frame, because if they're not set, because your mission, your vision, all this stuff needs to be flexible. You shouldn't be trying to measure something 10 years down the line, because things change. So, well-trained peers, woohoo. In addition, we're gonna go go to promoting positive images. You should remember that you are role models as peer educators. You should also be messengers to inform what students are doing. And recognize that most students are making healthy decisions. We talked about that in social norms. Most students are making healthier decisions. And just encourage them to continue. Kiara had said yesterday, she had told me some of the statistics of folks that students coming in, first year students from like alcohol EDU, say that only about 72% of them are coming into the institution as non-drinkers. I'm assuming that it's okay for you to know that statistic. If space that you were taking.
Yeah, it's like I felt like, I mean, it also was like the time that I had. Really, like, not, like, I don't know, I just felt kind of bad because they didn't get to, like, share their ideas.
Yeah, so this isn't one of our ground rules, but one of my favorite ground rules whenever I do that activity is step up, step back. It takes a lot of self-awareness. When you start thinking of, working with folks, recognizing the amount of space, and that's a metaphoric space, that folks take up. So if you think that if you are in your mind thinking, ooh, why am I speaking? Wait for 7 seconds. 7 seconds of awkward silence is a long time. However, we know that, was it psychology researchers maybe? That profession, one of the professions in social science, I could have just made that up, I'm attributing it to someone, know that if folks don't speak up in about 7 seconds, they're not going to. So there have been times when I've asked questions and I've awkwardly waited here. Once it's gotten to about 7 seconds, I'm like, okay, it's time to move on. That's how I decided when it was time to move on with the ground rules, because we started off, that was one of the first things we did. It was a little slow going before we got some ground rules. But we got closer and closer to that 7 seconds, and people started popcorning and giving those ideas. So for those introverts in the room, 7 seconds is a good amount of time for them to sort of formulate their ideas in their head and then speak up. So that could also be a tip, waiting for that 7 seconds. Answer your question, or is successfully skirt around it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Habit 4, peer education advisement. You need a strong and active advisor. I will say that whenever I do this training, it's not often that I actually see the advisor stay in the training. There are times when I go to a training, I might not even meet the person who has scheduled me to come out there. I meet a grad assistant, and then they get me set up, and then they leave. So the fact that you've had 3, 4 folks that have stayed in the back of the room for the past 2 days is pretty remarkable. And we can give 2 of them a round of applause. We'll give another round of applause for and obviously.
Kiara is getting stuff set up for later so that you can continue to have your stuff. So,
So Dr. Murphy also, whenever they're back in the space, definitely want to say thank you there. So having this strong active advisement is important. So much for group discussion, but I want to get to mission, vision, values. What makes a good advisor? They should hopefully have a passion for student wellness. They should spend some time with some group issues, recognizing when there might be issues in the group, promoting collaborations, willing to let the group fail. That's what I love about advising versus supervising. I used to be a supervisor, and it wasn't as fun as advising. Because advising, I get to say, oh, what do you want to do? I'll support you. I can support you, but I'm not going to do it for you. And if something flops, all right, what'd you learn from that? And we can do some reflection on that at the end. They coordinate effective peer education training? Yay! Yes?
Why should supervisors not be willing to let the group fail? Can you just
So, I think supervisors can still let a group fail. It's a little different because there are objectives that have to be met. Like, if I told my RAs, all right, you should plan move out, and then the students didn't leave, not going to work out well for me. Or if I didn't hold my RAs accountable to not drinking or following the code of conduct.
Yeah.
If something happens to an advisee and maybe they have a rough experience or they tell me something that is illegal or I would have to hold them accountable as their supervisor, that's different than an advisor, where I can be in a more mentorship.
I got you.
Hopefully they are Any more questions on advisor or supervisor difference? Also a great question in terms of job applications. You always get that, like, what's the difference between an advisor and a supervisor? If you go back to that. I still see some people writing. Because Habit 5 is branding. I know we're still on this. I think folks maybe have it. Habit 5 is branding. Branding. I see that you're working on branding with like a name. You should also have a group motto. We kind of did that a little bit yesterday. When you think of branding, you should come up with a mission statement. Hint, hint, hint. Habit 5, write down mission statement. You might see that on an exam. When you think of Habit 5, you should think of a mission statement, coming up with a mission statement. But what is the difference between a mission and a vision and values? Anyone have any ideas?
I would say that your mission is like how you want to get your, what was the other one you said?
Mission, vision, and values.
Yeah, like your mission is how you're going to achieve your vision
Yeah.
while incorporating like your values.
Yeah. That's actually a great definition. Anyone else want to add to that? Mission, vision, values? The way that I think of values, if you go to the slide so you can see what it says. Identity, slogan, mission statement. When you think of your values, that's what inspires you to be. That's what you get joy out of. That's what's important to you. An activity that I like to do is have folks come up with like their top 20 values. What are the 20 things they value in your life? And you kind of already did this a little bit with one of your activities apparently on Sunday. Once you come up with your 20, then I make you cut it down to 10. And then I make you cut it down to 5. Then I make you cut it down to 3. And then you have to choose basically what are your 3 most important values. All 20 of them might be important, but when you get to those 3 to 5, that's what we call your core values, the things that sort of make you you. Your vision is a little different. Your vision is an overarching goal, what you want to be, what you aspire to be. I know that this is nowhere in your book. This is me kind of going off script because I think it's important for you. It's what you aspire to be. It might not be achievable. You might not be able to prove whether or not that is the case. So for example, NASPA's mission, or NASPA's vision, is to be the leading voice for higher education worldwide. How in the hell am I going to prove whether or not we're the leading voice for higher education in the entire world, or even in just in the US? You can't necessarily do that. And that's what your mission statement is for. Your mission statement is how you want to eventually achieve your vision. And it should incorporate your values. So my personal values include professional development, highly effective training, and respect for diversity and inclusion. That would be 3. My vision would be to be a highly effective educator who inspires his students to lead civically engaged lives after their training. Can't necessarily prove that. I can do that by providing high quality training, which fosters open dialogue and discussion and deep reflection. So I can put on a survey, did you do this deep reflection? Please rate effectiveness of this training. So on and so forth, incorporating the values that are listed in the vision. Does that sort of make sense how values, mission, and vision are different? What questions do folks have on it? All right, so now we're doing an activity, because I've been talking at you all morning. We're going to break up into new groups, right? So we want to do that. What you're going to do is, as a group, you're going to write a mission, vision, and values for you all, for whatever name you come up with. I want you to come up with 3 values. I want you to come up with a mission statement, something that you can actually write a survey about, or you could put on a survey. But then your vision is your ultimate goal, which may or may not be the vision. Okay? So we're going to start, we're going to count off groups of 3 again. But we're going to start, go.
Okay.
All right.
Now.
Yeah.
Only
Just you, yeah, you are.
Our vision is encouraging others to live healthier lives by leading by
think I would figure it out.
Yeah. Like how, like being a friend, activist, educator, role model, and team member.
Okay.
And our mission is providing positive insight by sharing our knowledge for the greater good.
There we go.
With hearts.
There we
Yeah.
go. Excellent. I like it. Good job. All right, who wants to go next? All right, so I
let's
guess
go.
you got voluntold over here.
Thanks for volunteering.
All right.
Oh, I like your beads.
Oh, thanks, Carolyn.
Yeah.
Oh, the fancy writing.
Yeah, the M's all fancy.
Alright, so like, we kind of did ours by working backwards, so starting with our values, which were responsibility, awareness, and safety.
Our vision was to providing education to create a safe and supportive Albernian community.
And our mission is for our variety of peer educators will provide information to empower others to make healthy decisions to encourage a safe campus environment.
There we go. Love this. So as you can see, they came up with their values. Their values fueled what their mission was. If you were to do a program, it could be mission driven. So they can put on, you know, a survey like, did you receive information? Can you tell me about the information you received? Or did you feel empowered to make healthier decisions? Did you encourage this environment? You can actually put that on a survey and derive it from there. But it all fuels in that mission over there, providing education to make it create a safe and supportive community. Something that's so overarching what you want it to be, that's not something that you can ever really prove or necessarily attain. So, great job. Awesome.
Yeah, good job, group.
Oh, no.
Straight to the gym.
Whoa, were we supposed to make safe days?
Zach, isn't that like the Sports Athletic Association Commission or something?
No, it is our initials.
Yeah.
So, you have that idea from our.
Yeah, I think that also might be a club on campus, but that's.
Well, now we're also doing. Okay, so our mission is to spread awareness through programs and activities about sexual violence and alcohol misuse.
Our vision is to end sexual violence and for students to make healthy choices regarding drugs and alcohol.
And then the values we came up with were loyalty, honesty, supportive, community, and leadership.
There we go. Excellent. So how was that activity?
I like it.
You liked it? It's something, it's a little tricky. Why was it a little tricky?
Just like figuring out, you know, what matters to us, how to blend them all.
Yeah, sure, because they all feed into one another, which is sometimes difficult. This is a good activity to do sort of individually, yes, as your group. But it's also an important activity for you to do personally as well. Come up with your own personal mission, vision, and values. You can totally come up with your own personal mission, vision, and values, and hopefully that helps you define, you know, what are some jobs that you're looking for in the future? What is it that you want to do professionally? You know, I love sort of working with students and providing professional development opportunities and travel. Like, that's kind of what I'm doing now, and it all sort of stems from my own mission and vision and values, which I want to. So that's habit 5, branding. Ooh, and when you think of habit 5, you should think of mission statement. Yeah, test question. Habit 6 is administrative support. You should be able to identify how your work supports the academic mission. Someone, was it this group up here who said something about taking or working with Albernia's mission statement?
Yeah.
Yes, that was here. That's actually a great idea. Because if your mission statement aligns with the mission statement of the institution, you can show how you are supporting that mission. When it comes to asking for funding, asking for recognition, asking for support. Describe what's in it for the administration. Some of those statistics that we had talked about earlier of peer educators are actually directly correlated with increased retention and persistence rates. And then we also highlight the leadership skills
Write
that
that
you're gaining
down.
as a peer educator.
That last statement you made right before that.
Peer education directly correlates with increased retention and persistence rates.
Yes. That's very important to our institution. And if you want to get something done, that's going to be a motivator. when you talk about retention and
Peer review one more time.
Yeah.
One more time.
Peer education directly correlates with increased retention and persistence rates.
is there a statistic that goes with that anywhere?
It would be within Alexander Aston's work, so that peer-to-peer context. And National Peer Educator Study, you can get a part, you can become a part of the NPES. I can talk to you about it at a break.
One more time.
Okay.
Let's do it slow.
Okay, peer education correlates to increased retention and persistence rates. Lots of buzzwords, right? Persistence. So retention, the fact that you are retaining students. Students come into college, but not all of them finish. Right? And the statistic that nationally we look at is about 60.
Because that means we get money.
Right, because things are budgeted based upon students completing their degree. Because we accept a student and we hope that they're going to be here for 4 years, so we budget that we're going to get X thousands of dollars per year from them. Persistence is the fact that they persist 1 year over the next. Well, they're persisting through. Huge student affairs and higher education buzzword. There was like 3 courses in my grad work. So yes, highlight the leadership skills that you are gaining from your work as peer educators. It all goes back to sort of that module 1 when we started talking about a lot of these pieces. I showed you some of those statistics. You know, that 1 in 4 lives saved. That's from the NPES study. So that's administrative support. So prove what you're doing is working, and that way you get the administrative support, and that lets you sustain yourselves. Demonstrate how your program is meeting national standards. Again, I would encourage you all to sort of utilize your work as peer educators and get surveys and get data to show that you're meeting these national standards. Submit conference programs and apply for awards. That goes back to my shameless plug. Ask for funding and support. And then have your advisor be a liaison to staff and faculty groups. Because I'm sure a lot of our folks in the back know, most of our lives consist of meetings, right?
Yes.
Yep. That's all we do. You don't have time to be in meetings. You're supposed to be in class. So I remember when I was an undergrad, I spent most of my class time in meetings anyhow. I would schedule over classes. I was not a very good student. But that's what we are here for, is to sit in those meetings and be your advocates. That's administrative support. And then last one is student ownership. This is a student group. It's all about you. The advisors can have their ideas for what they want, but it's not their group. The most important people on a college campus are the students, are you.
Yes.
If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have jobs. I mean, we wouldn't have these jobs, we might have other jobs, but like...
It's very hard for me to be a professor without students in the classroom.
Yeah, exactly. So without your tuition dollars, no, without you, there would be no group. Peer education is the foundation for what you're trying to do. When you think about being peer educators, what you can do is you can research your effective strategies. You can find your campus's data. A lot of it's in the back, I'm sure. But promote those campus data points. Figure out how you can support your campus and your fellow peers. Make sure you show up to your own events. And last but not least, what?
So I feel like there's a story with that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I in undergrad had so many.
You have stories for
I have stories for everything. Just I'm on club boards and like the president doesn't show up. What does that show in terms of investment? If your leadership doesn't show up to the events that they plan.
Alyssa does a good job.
What?
I said Alyssa does a good job.
Yeah.
Thanks, Carl. You guys do great jobs.
Yay! And last but not least, have fun, because if it's not fun anymore, then what's the point? If it feels like just work for you all, what is someone getting out of it when we can see that you're not enjoying yourself? They're not going to be invested either. So.
That's it?
that's it. That is the CPE course. So I just, before we move into sort of the exam, I do just want to say that.
You're great.
Oh, thank you.
Big round of applause for JM!
You're not done with me yet. You can read that in 4 hours or so.
Psych.
But no, you all have been a spectacular group. I've really appreciated all of the great comments, the anecdotes, the thinking, the questions that you've asked, the vulnerability that you've shown. One of the cool things about sort of working for a nonprofit is that I get to do something that I love, and for the love of the profession, love of working on campuses. So, I said this a little bit yesterday, but like, please feel free to sort of reach out to me if you have questions, Snapchat, whatever you need to do. Reach out to me if you have questions, and utilize me as a resource. That was something that we talked about earlier in some of these habits, is finding some resources. I love working with students. That's why I do my job. So please definitely keep in touch and let me know what you need. I'm happy to help. Yes?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Kind of has it's separate.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we are now considered like certified peer educators.
You have to pass the
obviously
test,
we put
but-
that. Well, obviously we put that like on our resume. Like,
Yep.
have you ever like directly had like somebody be like, wow, like that's impressive. Like the fact that we have that. Like, is that actually like a
It depends a lot in terms of the jobs that you're applying for. In sort of the health fields, we do see a lot of folks reaching out to us saying like, I've lost my certificate, can you send it to me? Because for X school, they want to see the certification. And so like, these are people who've gone through the certification like early 2000s who have reached out and said, hey, can I get that? Especially sort of those health-related professions, student affairs-related professions, higher education professions. We see that. What you get whenever you pass the exam, you get a certificate, a membership card, and then a resume attachment, which I kind of talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
What it is, especially if you are applying for something very related to that peer-to-peer education, it kind of explains what it means to be a peer educator and the skills that you need. So that way that can help sort of explain that. Anytime you get a national certification, it's great. I think I said yesterday we've had 200,000 folks go through it since 1994. So the numbers of certified peer educators is significantly growing. So did I sufficiently skirt around answering your question
Yeah, I
directly?
just like because I know how you were saying that everything you did like in your undergrad and all, like it was mainly like for your resume, but like if I put on there like, oh, like I won the volleyball like championship, this like obviously like that's not like a big deal, but like you like
skills and certifications always is good. And what happens is I tend to find people who, when they look at a resume, they see something they don't know what it is, they'll either Google it or they'll ask you your answer.
yeah.
So being sure that you can answer that question when you see that in
So
the
it
interview as
doesn't
well.
look like you're just like, hey, I did this and I don't know what it is.
I will say that my boss was certified in CPE back in the 90s, and that's kind of how he got his job before.
Yeah.
So it works. Any other questions? What other questions? What are some other just takeaways in general from the course? How are folks feeling?
Empowered.
Empowered? All right, so we're gonna take the test. Are we gonna go?
I actually was just
You're going upstairs.
Like I'm so nervous for 5 seconds.
So I will give